Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bowler Track Show, the show by Bowler Upload of the Rivals Network. Today, we have a very special guest, CBS Sports Senior Writer, former Purdue All-American with the marching band, Jerry Brohm. Jerry, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
No, thanks for having me on.
So I know we kind of talked a little bit at the game on Saturday, just the state of Purdue football with everything that's gone on over the last few weeks. What's been your takeaways from the last few games?
Well, Wisconsin was obviously disappointing, but we haven't beaten Wisconsin since what, the Reagan administration? I mean, it's been forever since we've beaten Wisconsin. So when I was doing preseason projection, I had us, I think, at 9-3, which is maybe still possible, but I don't know if we have 3 or 4 losses. I'm losing track, but it's but the losses were Wisconsin. Those are games we don't win. So I look at it, they're on the schedule. The best we can do is 10-2. It's actually Penn State. We almost had Wisconsin. We were never in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Iowa's defense is pretty good, obviously, right? And we're dealing with 40-mile-an-hour winds. Fortunately, no rain, but not really a great combination for trying to move the ball against Iowa because the high winds games. And we saw it Western where they had high winds and a little bit of rain. And CJ Stroud's a Heisman candidate, throws for 76 yards. The difference, though, is that they can still run the ball and they're still playing Northwestern. And, defense had, a second or first half of the second quarter, they give up 21 points in a heartbeat. Otherwise, it's a 3-3 game. So, you just can't have those in a big game like that, and especially at home. The good news is for Purdue, Illinois lost. So Purdue still controls its own fate for the Big Ten championship. But now that goes through Illinois. The Illini, I think, are the favorite, which sounds about right. Their defense is tremendous. So the offense is really going to be challenged again this week, and they have to be sharper. I'm a little concerned. Aiden O'Connell has not been sharp in the middle of this all the way too much to the other team. And that's got to get cleaned up. Purdue cannot beat these teams, any of these teams left on the schedule, with 3 turnovers a game. That's just not going to work.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Jeff Brohm talked about the difficulties running the ball against this Illinois defense. I mean, it's hard for any team to do anything really against Illinois. I think they're the number 1 ranked defense in the whole country. But he also said in the same breath that he wants to be more balanced and give Devin Mockabee more carries. I just don't see how they can do that against this Illinois defense. I think they're gonna have to throw, and Aiden O'Connell's gonna have to play better.
You're going to have to pass. You still have to try to run. You still have to. You can't just go out there and call all pass plays. You've got to try it to keep the defense honest. You've got to try and establish a running game. Look, Michigan State just scored 26 on these guys, so something like that. So it can be. The 2 games that they gave up more than 14 points, they lost. And that's to a Michigan State team reeling after not just a loss to Michigan, but a scandal at Michigan that cost them 3 starters on their defense and 3. They still won the game. So it can be done. But the margin for error against Illinois is pretty small because the defense is so good. They will punish you if you give the ball. And of course, they've got running backs, if not the best running back in the country, in Chase Brown. We saw him as a freshman just run all over us at Purdue, even though Purdue won that game. But they're going to have to try and contain him and make the quarterback beat him. They got Isaiah Williams at receiver. They could throw over the top on us too, like most of these other teams have. So there are definite holes in Purdue that Illinois can exploit, and Purdue's got to find a way to either close those holes up or find ways to exploit an extremely good performance, and it's probably going to be a little more focused. This game is huge for both teams.
Yeah, no doubt. The swing that Purdue has gone on like a month ago, people were saying, all right, Purdue has a real shot at going to the Big Ten championship game. And now everyone's a little more pessimistic about it.
Well, it's because of the last two games.
Mhm.
They weren't competitive against Wisconsin, and they had a really bad stretch. The defense is, with the offensive problems we've detailed, but the defense has given up too many big plays. And against Iowa, it wasn't really over the top. I mean, I
Mhm.
think it was one that was kind of over the top, but mostly guys just got loose. Running backs got loose, receivers got loose. They catch or scrimmage. It was a 75-yard run for a touchdown. I mean, you can't have that. If Iowa can do that, Illinois can do it. So you just have to execute better on defense. And Purdue came out of a bye week, you know, kind of in some cases it's like, did you guys even practice this week? Because it just there wasn't connectivity, the communication wasn't good. There were just too many missed plays on both sides of the ball and drop passes, not quite accurate passes, which it could at least be partly blamed on the weather, except for Aiden O'Connell hasn't been sharp in good weather either. So,
Mhm.
they need to be tighter if they're going to win the games they need to win to try and get to the Big Ten championship or to a decent bowl game, or at this point, any bowl game at all, because they're still not bowl eligible.
That would be a complete disaster for Jeff
Oh,
Brohm.
utterly. To go for no.
Yeah. As far as the defense, like you mentioned, giving up the big plays, Coach Brahman is in his press conference on Monday talked about man coverage has been the thing that's been beating them up on the defensive side, and he also talked about them having miscommunications, not getting checks set all the right way, and then not having linebackers step up to help. So I think they're going to have more linebackers drop back into coverage, at least in the passing game. But then you can also give up a 75-yard run, like you mentioned, this time to Chase Brown.
Right. Well, and there were other big running plays that didn't all necessarily get to the end zone.
Mhm.
So too many chunk plays. And that's an anemic offense that has been terrible all year. And at one point in the game, you're midway through the second quarter, and the best coach on the field is the most maligned one, Brian Ferentz. So it's just it was just a disaster from the beginning. It started with the extra special not being able to get off the field so before the game when the team came out. So it was just you put it in your file it away, move on to the next one, try and do better. There's a lot to clean up out of that Iowa game, and that's really a missed opportunity for Purdue.
I thought they were going to do that after the Wisconsin game because Brahm has done very well against Iowa, and then they just came out flat. And I think Spencer Holstedge talked about it yesterday at media availability. He said that all last week they were just flat, and this week they've kind of come alive a lot more in practice, at least.
Oh, you'd hope so, but you really can't have a flat week of practice. I mean, you only get 3 months to do what you're going to do. So, you get a bye week, you can't sleep through it. It's otherwise it's a good bye week.
Hmm. What do you think about all the talk of it's mostly fans on Twitter and what have you talking about Purdue needs to move on from Jeff Brohm and all those types of things. What do you make of that noise coming from the outside?
That's you. Who? I mean, who are you going to get? Who's your idea? I mean, everybody likes to fire coaches. Nobody thinks about who you can get to replace them. So, all right. So, who are you going to get to replace Jeff Brohm? If you just want to fire Jeff, a bad game against Iowa, and we had a bad game against Wisconsin. First of all, that's really short-term thinking. But I don't want to hear let's fire Jeff Brohm until you've got an idea who you're going to replace him with that's going to be better. So, I fire Jeff Brohm is just stupid talk to me.
Hey, they could bring in Urban Meyer.
Yeah, Purdue. It's funny when we talk about coaching hires. Just coaching hires, the person that you're bringing in to coach your team has to be a good fit in the community of not just your football program, but the university,
Mhm.
right? So Jeff Brohm was a good Purdue because of the kind of guy that he is. And it doesn't even have to be an alum, like Notre Dame had Charlie Weiss, and he was a terrible fit because he was too arrogant even for Notre Dame. So, it has to be somebody who's a good fit within the community. Not just any random successful coach is going to come into Purdue and make Purdue a national champion, right? You've got to have somebody who would fit in this university community not the football program and the athletic and the boosters and all of that. As a head coach in a major college, that's part of the job. You have to be a good fit. And that is the most overlooked part of coaching hires. It's something that Purdue has done well over the years. A couple of misses, but in general, Purdue has usually found guys that are good fits within the university community. Now, they're not always successful on the field, but that's neither there. Can be really successful coaches. Like if you tried to bring Lane Kiffin into Purdue, I love Lane Kiffin. He's a terrific coach. His personality probably doesn't fit here. Urban Meyer, never going to work at Purdue.
Mhm.
And those are very successful coaches. And maybe you could find a very to a place like Purdue and fit in well. And I mean, we had Joe Tiller, a great fit in the university and a great coach who took us to some unprecedented heights. But if you haven't replaced Jeff Brohm, then why are we talking about firing him?
Yeah, I would agree.
I'm
And
actually more concerned that he'll go back to Louisville because I think that job could open up. And I was telling some people that before the season. This might be Jeff Brom's last year because I'd not be able to say no again, even though you have a better chance of being successful at Purdue because of the resources the Big Ten has than you do at Louisville, but home is home.
I think if that job opens up, there's a good chance he goes down there. I think he was really
They're definitely
close.
after him again. Yep.
He was really close last time.
Yep.
I think.
So these Purdue fans that want to fire him may get their wish, but
Yeah.
I want to hear who you're going to replace him with and be realistic.
Now, I've been critical of him at some points, but what he's done for Purdue has been phenomenal. I
I
mean,
agree.
just
He took us off. We were worse than fire when he came here, and now we're in bowl games. We're competitive. We've got a fun team to watch, even if they don't win. For the most part, it's a fun team to watch, and so I had to say it's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. Whoever you bring in is not going to be perfect, but Jeff Brohm has done a lot for Purdue football.
mhm. I mean, having the first 9-win season since what was it, 04 maybe? Can't remember off the top of my
Something
head.
like that. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, say what you want about him, but he's been great for Purdue at the end
Agreed.
of the day. I did want to transition a little bit, talk about Purdue basketball. They just had their regular season opener last night, and they started off shaky, went 2 of 15 to start, and then they really picked it up. Braden Smith, we talked about him a little bit before we hopped on here. He looks like the real deal.
Yeah, I hopefully he doesn't get hurt because Purdue's going to depend heavily on him this season. But he's got a lot of fight in him, and he's a skilled player. I mean, you could see why Purdue was really high on him when they were recruiting him. They were, wouldn't have to play such a big role early in his career. But I don't think Purdue's going to lose too many games because you've got a freshman point guard out there. I think, in terms of his anything like that. But I think in terms of attitude, he's got a lot of Chris Kramer in him. He's kind of feisty. He gets after people. He gets hands in the way. They play completely different games. Chris was, not a point guard, but I think that there's a attitude in Braden Smith, and I really I like that about him.
Yeah, he almost broke the single game steals record last
I
night.
know his first game, right? So who got 8? Who has the record?
I tweeted it last night. Long time ago. Oh wait.
I was gonna say I don't remember. Although I'm
Ricky
older, so it probably
is
happened.
Ricky Walls. Does Ricky Walls sound familiar?
No, but that could be a record holder, but I don't know. I don't know the name.
Ricky Hall in
Ricky Hall.
1983.
Yeah, that's when I was in school. He was our point guard when I was in school. He was Gene Katie's best point guard. Although maybe you could make a case for Everett Stevens, but Ricky Hall was a guy that, one of his first point guards and a guy that he really trusted. He ever found a guy that was as good a point guard as Ricky Hall. And so I'm not surprised that name would be the guy, that Ricky Hall would be the guy.
I mean, the way Braden Smith impacts the game, watching him, I think the biggest moment probably of him showing what he truly brings to Purdue is jumping in the pass lane, getting a steal, and then having that, getting through the lane and then lobbing it up to Edey.
That's Yep. That's a great end-to-end play. It's a terrific play. And when you can do that kind of thing, when you can distribute and take care of the ball and get some steals and things like that, you don't actually have to be a big if you get the ball to guys in good spaces, Edey obviously, but Brandon Newman, Lawyer first, we've got a lot of guys that can shoot. So, and it's nice that he can shoot too, but and you don't have a great shooting day, you can still win games because of all those other things that you can do. So he's obviously going to be a very important player on this team this year, and you can see why the staff is.
I think his unselfishness is kind of infectious for the team. I remember in the exhibition, him, Ethan Morton, and Fletcher Lawyer, they were kicking around everywhere, passing up good shots for great shots, and that's what I think he's going to bring to the offense. And then, like you mentioned, you look around at some of the shooters Purdue has. Brandon Newman has had a really good start to the year. Fletcher Lawyer caught fire in the second half last night. Ethan Morton can still step out and shoot. And then David Jenkins didn't even play, and he played phenomenal in the exhibition.
Yeah. I'm sorry that he couldn't play, but hopefully he'll be back shortly. It's you can't have too many guys that can shoot. In fact, I don't even think you can play for Purdue if you can't shoot. Even Zach Edey, his shooting range is different. The place that they ask him to shoot from is different, but they still expect him to be able to shoot. So it's an important skill, something Painter values very highly, is to be able to shoot especially from anywhere on the floor, except for his really big guys. And Purdue always has guys that can do that. So it's no surprise. And I didn't get to see much of the game last night, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what Kaufman-Renn can bring to this team. I'm really excited. I think got how he develops probably be an all Big Ten kind of player. I just really am excited about his upside, but I haven't seen him play yet. So other than I caught like the last 6 or 7 minutes of the game, I was wrapped up in college football playoff stuff last night. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can.
Yeah, I was surprised. He's been playing a lot more on the block as opposed to on the wing, which I thought he might. I thought he might be more of a stretch forward than he's shown so far. But his post move, he's strong. He's a strong kid.
Well, he's versatile though too, because he's going to be the primary backup to Zach, right? So he can play in the post, but you can also play him on the floor with Zach. So kind of versatility, really part of what makes him, I think, a special player is that he can play inside out, and you can use him in different ways. And that's why I think, if he develops the way I believe he can, he's probably the guys he can play inside it. He
Yeah,
also has to be able to defend at that level. And I don't know much about his defense yet. But you know how Matt is. If you can't defend, you're not going to see much of the floor.
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably the best pro prospect Purdue has right now.
I would agree, but not after this season, most likely.
Most likely. With Miles Colvin's officially signed his letter of intent, and he'll be making his way up to
That's
left
very
tackle
exciting.
net.
Boys, there's a lot of teams that are going to regret not going after him harder early. That may not have mattered,
Mhm.
but I'm really excited about Miles Colvin. I don't get I want to wait until they get here, but Miles Colvin is one that I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, I got to see him up close and personal in the Dizzy Runs Pro-Am this past summer. He was going up against NBA guys, a lot of overseas guys, and he was the most athletic guy on the court in every game he played.
There's something to be said about that.
And I mean, obviously his athleticism and his dunking ability and all that type of stuff, but he's still skilled as well. He's not like a guy that's just a high flyer that Purdue's had in the past, like, no disrespect, but Eden Ewing. I mean, he was super athletic, but he couldn't get on the court because he couldn't do everything else. Miles is the complete opposite. Miles is the total package.
Yeah, they're going to have a hard time getting him off the floor. I'm really I'm convinced he's going to walk in right away and make an impact.
And you
And
look
we
at
may not have him long.
yeah. Yeah, he could be a one and done. I'm of the belief I like it when guys stay 2 years in college. You look at I know it's not the same for everybody because you got like a Zion or RJ Barrett or whoever, but you look at some of the guys that came out last year, especially in the Big Ten, Johnny Davis, Keegan Murray, Jaden Ivey, all stayed, Benedict Mathurin. They all stayed till they were sophomores, developed more, impacted their teams more, and then I mean, it's showing right now. They're all doing well in the league.
Yeah, and I think for some of those guys, their first year was a pandemic year
Mhm.
in the sense that you weren't playing in front of crowds. You were the NCAA tournament. I mean, it was just a completely different environment, and practices were done differently and things like that. So a second year, like a regular year, was probably much more helpful for those guys. And it might be going forward, with assuming we don't have other, God forbid, pandemic situations. But yeah, that the fact that their freshman year was a pandemic year could have impacted the fact that they stayed a second year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm gonna have to wrap this thing up here, but Jerry, I really appreciate you coming on, taking the time to do this. Um, we all love reading your stuff. Best of luck to you in the future.
All right, thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.